Welcome back to Top 25 Voter Pod with a couple of Top 25 college basketball voters here in John Werner and Chad Conine. Gentlemen, good to see you guys again.
Bryce, howdy. Chad.
So, guys, John, you and I were at the Farrell Center for the men's game the other day. Of course, Chad was there later in the evening for the women. And we saw Jonathan Tchamwa Tchatchoua go down with a really ugly knee injury. Obviously, that's a big loss for the Bears. So The question is, can they still challenge for a deep NCAA run without him? I mean, how do they make up for his absence?
Well, it's obviously going to be more difficult now. Several guys are going to have to play more minutes, starting with Flo Thamba. He probably played his best game of his career against Texas. 12 points, 11 rebounds, 4 blocks. He's going to have to play more. I would think Jeremy Sohan, Kendall Brown. I mean, they're not big physical guys inside, but they, they're both 6'8", 6'9", and they can play. And I expect to see maybe some Matt Meyer at 4 or 5. I mean, he's tall. He's played there a little bit before when in a pinch. So I think all those guys are probably going to have to play some more minutes. Obviously, just a huge loss with the energy he brings to that team and just the positivity. But, Scott's dealt with injuries before, and, he's dealt with them all year. So I think they could still end up having a really good season, but it makes it tougher for sure.
Yeah, obviously he has dealt with injuries all season. That said, this is the season ending variety.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a big loss as well. Might they strip a red shirt off of a guy and do that kind of solution?
Well, Zach Loveday might play some now. He's not a red shirt, but he hadn't played much.
Right.
So yeah, he might play some.
Yeah.
I think at this stage of the season, and the kind of competition you're going to be playing the rest of the way, though, it's kind of hard to take a chance on a guy that hasn't played much, right?
Right.
You can't have somebody out there hurting you for minutes at a time.
Yeah, but I think you roll him out in certain situations and see what he can give.
Right.
And then maybe, you extend the leash as, time goes on. But yeah, they're going to need some bodies. So, even if he can give them a couple minutes at a time in little stretches, that might help.
The other side of this is it is a guard-driven game, and Baylor's strength last year was how good its guards were. And so, you hate to lose a guy like that. And I think maybe one of the biggest challenges will be keeping Sohan and Brown and Meyer and whoever's filling in, guarding the other team's 4 out of foul trouble. But you still got a whole lot of guards that can do a whole lot of different things. And, positionless players, that's kind of the buzzword for a reason, I think, in college basketball these days.
Yeah, it would help having LJ Cryer back too.
Yeah, and I'm not so worried about them offensively. I mean, I think they'll get buckets. That wasn't really everyday John's role. I mean, he had a good game offensively before that. At K-State, John?
Yeah, he's really been improving in that area though too.
Yeah, to me, where you lose him the most is defensively, and he's kind of the anchor of that defense. So they'll have to figure some things out for sure, and they'll have to figure them out in a very tough environment in Lubbock, Texas, tomorrow night as we record the podcast. Baylor-Tech. Coming up tomorrow, Wednesday night. Could this game be a preview of, Sweet 16, Elite 8, something deep in the tournament? What do you guys think?
Oh, I definitely think so. Yeah, it's that type of game. It's going to be another incredible atmosphere out in Lubbock. I don't know if it's going to be quite as heightened as when Texas came there. That'd be hard to beat. But yeah, it's a big time game, and it could determine who goes to Fort Worth for a regional. A Tech sweep would really help them. A Baylor win in Lubbock would really help them. So yeah, it's a big time game.
If this game, if North Carolina had been to the championship game in 2019 and lost in overtime, and Duke had won the championship the next time around, and one had 21 wins and the other had 19, how much hype would this game be getting?
That's a good point.
A lot, yeah.
And so I think, and with the way college athletics is moving, and the way Baylor's athletic department has been positioned lately, I mean, I think really and truly these two athletic programs may be about to come into their own and not have to be overshadowed by Texas and Oklahoma anymore. And I think there's a lot of reasons for Baylor and Tech to develop into this brotherly type of rivalry that we've seen with other schools, particularly, the Horns and the Sooners kind of share for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I think the brotherly will go out the window the first time, one of them wins on the other's home court or, whatever. I mean, my
point though is that, like, historically, Baylor and Texas Tech have both been the little brothers of Oklahoma and Texas. And as such, they've kind of discounted each other. It's kind of like, oh, well, we can beat Texas Tech, or we can beat Baylor. They're not any good. And I think the attitude there kind of changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I think, forget little brother to Oklahoma and Texas. This is a chance for Baylor and Texas Tech to prove that they're not the little brother to Kansas.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about recent NCAA tournament history, the Baylor Bears, the defending national champions, Texas Tech played the national championship game 2 years ago. They've kind of got better recent history than Kansas does. And that's the blue blood, right?
Right.
Why can't Tech and Baylor be a blue blood?
Now, the glass half full, half empty on that is that the half empty on Kansas's side is, why has the NCAA not punished them yet? I mean, Oklahoma State can't go to the tournament this year, but Kansas can. That makes sense, And then, but the glass half full, if you're Kansas, is like, Jayhawks are probably going to win the conference again this year.
Probably so. We've talked about that before. They certainly look like the favorites. Let's flip the page to women's basketball. The Baylor women are on a 4-game winning streak. Chad,
9 out of 10, by the way.
9 out of 10. That's a pretty good run. Especially coming off, they had lost like 2 in a row right before that. So,
go ahead, Bryce.
Chad, I mean, do you feel like they're peaking at the right time?
Yes. And my article that'll be published tomorrow, my advance of the TCU game, I compared, you guys will love this. I compared Baylor's season to a kid that was sick early in the semester and had to miss some class, and is finally kind of getting caught up and starting to look like an A student again, and probably
so going to sick from COVID.
I didn't want to say COVID, but
right.
But they are who we thought they could be, with Melissa Smith and Sarah Andrews and Jordan Lewis and all of those really good pieces that they have. And when they were 0-2 and played 2 road games and had to sit out for a week with COVID and everything, you thought, man, they're kind of facing a hole, but there's a lot of season left. And at some point, they're going to get going and they're going to be a lot harder to beat than they are right now. Well, we've reached that point of the season. And in particular, because after they played Kansas State last week, and they had West Virginia, which was okay. And now they play TCU, Oklahoma State, none of which are very good, And so the freight train is about to start going full steam ahead,
We all remember the way Kim Mulkey's teams won basketball games, and that was with really, really tough man-to-man defense, and generally speaking, inside-out offense centered around extremely skilled, tall posts, the Brittany Griners of the world, the Lauren Coxes, Kalani Brown. And to me, what I've seen from Nikki Collins' team is a little more creativity offensively, and probably not quite as good defensively as a lot of those Mulkey teams. They hung their hat on defense. I mean, that's how but I think they're certainly rounding into form defensively. And I think they can make a run.
When you mention defense, having covered, those last few Mulkey teams, and you watch opponents come in here and it's like, can we get a shot off? I mean, that was like, you felt like if they ever got a decent looking shot, they were ahead of the game. That's how good the defense was. And yeah, that's not really what you see now, but there's maybe less of an intimidation factor for some reason. And it's hard to play really hard defense for 40 minutes with 7 players.
Yeah. I think this team could do okay in the NCAA tournament just because I think they have a little more balance, a little more inside outside offensive balance. I think they could do all right.
Well, and I don't know how much you guys have watched, but there are times when Alyssa Smith makes baskets and you just go, there was no way they were going to stop that.
Yeah, that's the classic good defense, better offense kind of situation. You can guard a person perfectly sometimes and they'll still score. And that's Alyssa right now. She's playing really great basketball. As we look at these Big 12 men's and women's races, who do you guys feel like are the top candidates for Coach of the Year?
I'll let you go first, Chad.
Okay. Well, I think the short answer is Jennie Baranczyk on the women's side and Mark Adams on the men's side. Oklahoma is contending for the conference championship, which I don't think a lot of people foresaw even when Big 12 play began. Same thing with Texas Tech. I don't know that they're going to overtake Kansas. I expect that they won't. But everybody wanted to talk about, Chris Beard and the awesome team that he put together, and nobody really had much time to think about Mark Adams and Texas Tech and what they might do. But they've proven themselves, through 25 games.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with Chad. There were some expectations for Tech, but not like real high expectations. And I think they've kind of, maybe overachieved a little bit. Maybe they don't see it that way, but I think in the eyes of most people they have. I think he's done a great job with that team. And Jennie, they've definitely surprised a lot of people on the women's side.
Yeah, and both of those coaches that you mentioned, following coaches who had built, pretty sterling reputations at those schools, in Chris Beard and of course Sherry Cole. Sherry Cole over a much longer period of time than Chris Beard did at Tech, but certainly it shows that, hey, these programs aren't dead, just because these other coaches left. And I think Oklahoma honestly was kind of in need, talking about the women, in need of a little bit of a kind of jolt of energy, a fresh face. And she's brought that.
Yeah, it was hard to fathom that they weren't more competitive the last few years. And honestly, there were a lot of easy buckets to be had against Oklahoma. I felt like watching them play, and I'm like, just kind of like a little bit shocked by that. But, some people run the roost through spit and vinegar, and sometimes spit and vinegar runs out, right?
Okay.
Yes, it does.
I don't know if I'm going to call reaching on that, but we'll see. All right. I'm actually going to mix my metaphors here and call an audible for this last question.
I mean, I've used about 8 different metaphors throughout this podcast, so I don't think anybody's going to fault you for mixing your metaphors.
And I'm also switching sports.
Oh.
Just because I want to, and because I feel like anybody watching this podcast is probably a Central Texas sports fan, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you guys know that LeRoy Coleman at University passed away over the weekend. We got the news actually while we were at that Baylor men's basketball game. Chad wrote an excellent obituary on LeRoy, and just wanted to give y'all.
Your column was really good too. I just read it a few minutes ago.
Thank you. Just wanted to give y'all an opportunity maybe to speak to what LeRoy meant to Central Texas football, you personally, I mean, pretty stand-up guy.
Yeah, obviously I've known him for many years. About the nicest coach you'd ever want to meet. Always made you feel welcome when you went over there. You call him on the phone. Yeah, how you doing, John? I mean, it's just like that with everybody. And he was like that, until the end, whether he was the head coach at University or an assistant at Vega. And I always found it interesting that even after his great run at University, he still wanted to coach. And of course, Coach Hyde was happy to have him. So, yeah. So, yeah, just one of the all-time just best coaches and best people too.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you used, breath of fresh air. I mean, he was just a really refreshing guy to see and get to talk to, from time to time when you just saw him around town and when you were working on a story. John, I think you did a story maybe in 2020 about his 50th year of coaching. Mm-hmm. He had reached 50 years in coaching. And then of course, during his 51st or 52nd season this past fall, when Waco ISD inducted him in their Athletic Hall of Fame, I was able to do that story, and I used quotes from that story that I gathered for it, and actually didn't use in the story. I was able to use in the story that ran on Sunday, and then Bryce used a couple of those, but they all just really spoke to a lifetime of coaching because he wanted to do it. I mean, what did they say? Like if you have a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. But I felt like LeRoy almost kind of transcended that, like. That was what he wanted to be doing, and it just so happened that they paid him.
Right. He'd be doing it anyway. Yeah, and here's the other thing that I really didn't get into much in my column, but I mean, we both, Chad, your story and my column had mentions of his success as a coach, but I think in the lens of hindsight, what he did at University resonates even deeper, because if you look at what University has done since then, and one of the reasons I really didn't put it in my column is I'm not trying to throw any of these other coaches who followed LeRoy Coleman under the bus, but the fact is they've struggled mightily to win games ever since LeRoy Coleman left University. In terms of making the playoffs. They had obviously a long losing streak there that they had to break, like several seasons. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. And it's not just like that these coaches aren't good coaches or anything like that. But to me, it really does, when you look back at what he accomplished at University with, not always the most talent. Obviously they had some talent, but it really, his record is pretty impressive. The further away we get from it.
How many multiple high school ISDs out there do you see more than one school, getting it done? And LeRoy basically was there the same 2 decades or 3 decades that Johnny Tusa was at Waco High, and they both got it done with the guys that were coming to their school, and that says a lot for both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, certainly he'll be missed by so many, and all of us included, and just continued prayers for his family. Obviously they went into coaching too, and it'll be I'm sure a moving, touching service on Saturday. And so anyway, just wanted to kind of close with that because I know he's been on all of our thoughts for sure.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us.
Sounds good.
All right, man.
All right, guys. Chad, I did want to ask you if you might be available to cover a game Friday night, high school.
Yeah, the only thing is I'm not going to be able to go Saturday to the service because I'll be at TCU.
Right.
Unless we want to not go to TCU because it's LeRoy's service.
I'm going to LeRoy's service, so but
well,
what you're saying you want to go to LeRoy's service?
I want to go to visitation on Friday night.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that starts at 5.
Does it start at 5? If it starts at 5, I can do it.
Yeah,
I can do a game.
The times you gave me were 5 to 7 on the visitation and 11 o'clock Saturday on the.
Yeah. Okay. So I can do that. I'll just get there like at 4:30 or something like that, or 4:45.
Okay. The game would be the Vega girls 6:30 at Midway.
Okay. Who are they playing?
Salado.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Even if you get there a little late, I mean, you'll miss some buckets because it'll probably be 30-2 La Vega, but.
Well, like I said, I'll get there early, shake some hands and pay respects, and then head out about 5:45.
That's cool.
Make it across town.
What were you gonna say, Johnny?
Yeah, Bryce. That Friday, I'll cover that Baylor softball. Saturday, it's the same time as the men's basketball. So
yeah,
I'll just be covering it Friday.
I'll be covering Baylor baseball opener. So
okay, who do they got?
Maryland.
Okay,
so
sounds good.
All right,
Johnny, I saw you like my tweet about Baylor scheduling Albany.
Yeah, did you see that, Bryce? Baylor's playing Albany.
I didn't even really know
football season opener.
That was a team. I didn't know that was a football team.
Yeah, the Albany Lions. They're in a district with Hamlin.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw your joke.
Maybe they can get Hamlin next year.
Oh, any chance to dig in the knife on Baylor? Chad's good. All right.
All right,
dudes. See y'all.
See ya.
Later.